Have you ever, stopped and thought about the legal system and how, it's supposed to be this impartial thing, this bedrock of fairness? But what happens when it starts getting squeezed, maybe even pressured, from powerful forces outside of it?
It's a thought-provoking question, isn't it?
Hmm.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. It's about these recent actions taken against, well, frankly, some pretty big-name law firms and the fight they're putting up, legally speaking.
It is. It's like right off the bat, the core of this thing is like, is the legal profession truly independent? Can lawyers actually represent their clients without fear of, I don't know, some kind of payback?
Yeah, absolutely. Huge implications. And the material you sent, the YouTube video with Glenn Kirshner discussing this, really lays it out. We're talking executive actions like from the top, targeting these major firms and their response, lawsuits. It's a real legal showdown.
Okay, so for everyone listening, the goal here in this deep dive is to get to the bottom of it, right? What are the legal issues? What are the arguments flying back and forth in court? And then what could this mean, not just for lawyers, but for, for the rule of law? How does this affect all of us?
Right, right. So at the heart of it, we've got these executive orders, not just general policies, but orders specifically aimed at certain law firms during the Trump administration.
And not just any firms, right? According to what we've got here, these are some real heavy hitters in the legal world: Jenner and Block, Wilmer Hale, and Perkins Coie. But gotta say, the reasons given for why these firms were targeted, they raise some eyebrows.
Definitely. So Jenner and Block, the connection they point to is that they used to employ Andrew Weissman. And as Kirshner discusses, Weissman was a key figure in the Russia investigation, been a vocal critic of Trump. Though it is worth noting that Weissman, he left Jenner and Block back in 2021.
Oh, interesting. And then there's Wilmer Hale. They've got their own Russia investigation link. Robert Mueller, the special counsel, he worked there before. Seems like in this case, the administration drew a pretty direct line.
Direct line for sure. And then the third firm, Perkins Coie, they were in the crosshairs for a whole other reason. They represented Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So you start to see a pattern here, right?
Yeah.
A focus on firms connected to investigations or, to political opponents.
And these executive orders, they weren't subtle about it. We're talking attempts to block these firms from getting government contracts, even trying to take away security clearances from some of their lawyers. That's got a sting, professionally speaking.
It does. And the firms, they're pushing back hard, saying these actions are, well, they're saying it's an attack on the legal profession itself. Unprecedented, unconstitutional. Basically, they say it's retaliation for who they've represented, the legal stands they've taken in the past.
Which brings us to the lawsuits. All three firms, they've gone to court to try to stop these executive orders. What are the big legal arguments they're making?
The big one is the First Amendment. They're saying these orders violate their rights, their employees' rights, and even their clients' rights. It's freedom of speech, the right to petition the government, importantly, the right to have the lawyer you choose.
Right. Jenner and Block, they're not mincing words from what I'm seeing. Their lawsuit claims this executive order is a threat, not just to their firm, but to the whole legal system. They say it's an attempt to punish them for who they represent, what their lawyers think, even past associations.
And Wilmer Hale has Paul Clements on their side. He's argued before the Supreme Court, a big name. His statement, it's pretty clear-cut. The president's sweeping attack on Wilmer Hale and other firms is unprecedented and unconstitutional. He brings up the First Amendment, too, saying the government's trying to punish them for using their rights. Mm-hmm. And they're bringing up legal precedent here, too. Cases like NAACP v. Button, which established the right of lawyers to work together on cases, is protected by the First Amendment, and they're arguing these orders go against that.
Okay, now this is where it gets interesting. The discussion mentions another firm, Paul Weiss, and their chairman, Brad Karp. What's the story there?
So Jenner and Block's lawsuit, it actually brings up Paul Weiss. They suggest that Paul Weiss might have, made some kind of deal with the Trump administration to avoid being targeted. It's like you're saying that this pressure, this fear of being targeted, that was the whole point of these orders, to scare firms away from certain clients or cases.
So they're saying it wasn't just about past actions, but about controlling what lawyers do in the future, trying to preemptively silence them. That's a big claim with big consequences if it's true.
Absolutely. It raises the question, was there a broader strategy at play here? A way to discourage legal challenges that the administration didn't like?
Now, there's a development here that seems like a win, at least for one of the firms. What happened with Perkins Coie's lawsuit?
Perkins Coie, they got a pretty big early win. A U.S. District Judge, Beryl Howell, she blocked a good chunk of the executive order aimed at them.
And what I read, Judge Howell didn't hold back. She straight up said the order was likely unconstitutional. That's a pretty strong statement coming from a federal judge.
Definitely. The court actually ordered the Trump administration to take back any instructions telling government agencies not to work with Perkins Coie. So while it's not the final word, it's a big win for Perkins Coie and, maybe a good sign for the other firms fighting this.
Okay, this next bit, it really caught my attention. We're back to Paul Clement, but in a different situation altogether. Let's remind everyone who he is and why this other case matters in this whole discussion.
Right. So Paul Clement, he's that well-known conservative lawyer, served as Solicitor General under President George W. Bush. That's a top spot in the Department of Justice. What's interesting is he's involved in this separate case, the prosecution of New York City's mayor, Eric Adams. And the DOJ, under Trump, they wanted the case dismissed without prejudice, meaning they could bring those charges back later.
And that's where Clement comes in. Not on the administration's side this time, but as what they call an amicus curiae, a friend of the court, appointed by the judge in the Adams case, Judge Dale Ho. His job. To argue against the DOJ's dismissal terms.
That's it. Clement, he told the court that if they were going to dismiss the case, it should be with prejudice, meaning those charges are done, gone, can't be brought back. It seems like he and the judge were worried about, the possibility of prosecution being used as a political tool down the road.
So tying it all together, we've got Paul Clement, known for conservative legal views. Now he's fighting against this Trump administration executive order targeting WilmerHale, calling it unconstitutional. That's a pretty significant thing, isn't it?
It is. It kind of shows that this worry about executive power going too far, it's not just a one-sided thing. It's a concern across the legal world. It suggests that this issue, it's not just about politics as usual. It's about the rule of law, about keeping the branches of government in check.
So big picture time. What could happen if these actions against law firms, if they stand? What are the potential long-term consequences?
Well, if these executive orders are allowed to stand, it sets a dangerous precedent. Future administrations, doesn't matter what party, they could target firms based on who they represent, what their lawyers believe. It could make lawyers hesitant to take on tough cases that are politically sensitive. And that hurts everyone's right to a good lawyer. And, it brings up this question. Should lawyers be punished for what people who used to work at their firm did, even years later? It's something to consider.
And the information we've got, it really emphasizes this idea that lawyers need to stick together, to stand up to what they see as abuses of power, to protect the legal system itself.
Exactly. The legal profession needs to be independent. Lawyers have to be able to fight for their clients without being afraid of the government coming after them. If that's gone, the whole system weakens. The checks and balances disappear.
Okay, let's wrap this up. To recap for everyone listening, we've looked at these executive orders targeting law firms connected to, well, basically Trump's opponents and the lawsuits they filed. They argue those orders violate free speech, the right to a lawyer. We talked about a win for one firm, and how a big-name conservative lawyer is now fighting these actions.
Yeah, it really boils down to this. What does it mean for our democracy when lawyers, the people who defend the law, might face consequences for who they represent? Are we at a point where the power of the government could reshape the legal profession itself? Big questions.
Really makes you think, doesn't it? It makes you appreciate how important it is for lawyers to be able to represent anyone, even people with unpopular views, without fear. That's a cornerstone of justice. It's something we all need to think about.
It truly is.
Thanks for joining this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See you then.